We have to learn to let go and allow life to happen through us without any judgments, without any preconceived notions, just allowing life to be what it is.
We choose between the left and right, the ups and downs, the darkness or the light. We're finding who we are.
There's only one reform in life. When you and I stop living from our heads, you and I are here for one very solid reason, and that is to learn to be loving.
We're finding our way together, just you and me.
Namaste. One of the most important insights you will ever have is, I only don't know. Come be with us on Aspire as we seek again on the Eightfold Path to understand right mind.
Higher and higher until we finally sing. 'Cause when we seek, we find the answers. Life's a dance and we're all dancers. Aspire and just believe we can be everything. Aspire.
When you hear the name Buddha, do you picture a statue of a bald, fat man in your favorite Chinese restaurant? Maybe he is laughing, or maybe he is serene. Do you believe his life was fact or fiction? Buddha means the enlightened one. The man we call Buddha was Siddhartha Gautama, and he lived only 500 years before Jesus. Today, Buddha's teachings are the basis for one of the world's greatest religions with more than 180 million followers. The 5 monks who were Buddha's former companions were finally convinced that he was indeed enlightened. Buddha then proceeded to share with them the insights he gained during his transformation under the Bodhi tree. He told them that liberation does not come from following the path of extremes. Neither a life of pleasure nor a life of austerity would lead to liberation. He had discovered a third way, the middle path, which does lead to peace, knowledge, and nirvana. The way of the middle path is based on the 4 noble truths which came to Buddha during his meditation. He told his monks that birth, death, and age bring sorrow. The second noble truth holds that the source of sorrow is desire. The third truth tells us that the end of sorrow and suffering comes with the end of desire and craving. And the final truth reveals that the way to put an end to suffering and desire is to follow the Eightfold Path. The 8 steps on this path are right seeing, right purpose, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mind, and right understanding. Before long, more monks came to him and were ordained to teach the middle path. For the remaining 45 years of his life, Buddha would travel all over India, sharing his teachings by word and living example. Next, Buddha's return home and death. One of the most important on the Eightfold Path is this one called right mind. And it's not what many people think of as right mind. When I would say something to you like, have right mind, I'm sure that you flash on the idea of having positive thoughts or just thinking about godly thoughts or whatever that may mean to you, but that's not what Buddha meant. To Buddha, the whole idea of right mind meant a no mind, believe it or not, and a big paradox is there. You and I have an everyday mind that we tend to use in our life, and the everyday mind is very analytical. Sometimes it's very harsh. It thinks about how to earn a living, how to have things, how to get things. I like to call this mind the obtaining mind. This is a mind that's always trying to get something, trying to get a living, trying to get money, trying to get objects, sometimes trying to get knowledge, sometimes trying to get people. If you will look at your mind for just a moment, you will see that much of your thoughts are centered around the idea of how to get something and obtain something. And we spend so much time in that obtaining that we miss what is going on around us. The mind can either be a barrier or a bridge to the eternal part of us, the spiritual part. It can be a barrier if we use it in the form of knowledge, in reason and logic. And it can be a bridge if we will use it to just allow ourselves to reflect non-judgmentally, just to see things without trying to analyze those things. And that's the important part that I want to share with you now. No mind is the great mind. No mind is where I am just allowing myself to reflect upon things just as they are, without trying to categorize them, without trying to give them a meaning or a logic or a purpose. Spend a moment of your day, just little moments of your day, maybe at lunch or when you're alone somewhere, just looking at things as they are, without trying to judge them and give them a purpose and a reason. And all of a sudden, you're going to find a deep change, a significant change in your life. That's why we urge meditation so much, because meditation is the allowing of ourselves to clear the mind that we might find the spirituality of us. Now, let me stop here and pause a little bit on right mind. Right mind is a posture. It's really a posture that you and I sit in. It's an attitude that we have. And here's how it works. I will never be able to attain to my heart if I'm obtaining everything with my mind. Here's how it works. A little Zen technique that has helped me out a great deal. Maybe I can share it with you to help you. There's an old saying in Zen, only don't know. When you and I go into our meditation time, or you and I move into a day, our obtaining mind is always knowing. It's projecting in the future, projecting in the past. It's never in the present moment. It's always worrying about something ahead of us or worrying about something that is behind us. And because we think in terms of ahead and behind, right and left, we're never in the now. That's the obtaining mind. And when you're trying to affirm certain things in your life and negate certain things in your life, you are again in the obtaining mind. And that's not the mind that invites God. That is not the mind that is the host to God. That is not the mind that allows for God. That is a control issue problem, and it's directly pointed towards our ego. And that's the hard part of the work. Because when a person achieves right mind, the ego is slowly beginning to diminish, because we are not seeking to obtain things. We are seeking to attain to the heart. Vast difference. Take this stance. I don't know. Are things good in your life? I don't know. Are things bad in your life? I don't know. When we take that attitude in us, then we find a spirituality beginning to occur. All spirituality is based in your heart, not what your mind thinks. Your mind is of no real consequence as far as the spirituality of your life. The spirituality of your life comes from the heart and the feeling nature of you. When you and I start to recognize what our feelings are, when we begin to understand what our feelings are, when we begin to honor our feelings, we have achieved right mind. Because all of a sudden now, feelings are going to be reflected in everything that we do, and we're going to be able to be very sensitive to what's around us. We're in Balboa Park right now, and as you look behind me, it is a beautiful day, a beautiful setting. If your mind looks at it, it will go, it's Balboa Park, it's a beautiful setting, yes, it's very pretty. But you'll never see the spirit of it. Only right mind can show you the spirit. A mind that is no longer seeking to consider, as Gautama Buddha said, what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. A mind no longer limited to morals and precepts, to pleasure and pain. A mind that purely, as Buddha says, reflects things as they are. That is the dynamics of right mind. It is an awesome experience in us because it brings us so close to the nature of ourselves. Our mind has done a number on us for many years. It's fooled us into believing that what we see is what we realize and what we know. And it is simply not true. One of the major tricks that the mind plays is making us think what it is seeing is what we believe in. When we have right mind, we begin to bridge our life with our heart, and a spirituality occurs. Welcome back. I want to come back to the idea of only don't know. You know, the difficulty of spirituality is the whole concept of letting go of all of our concepts. We pride ourselves on what we think we know, or what we've learned. I see people reading books about Zen, Buddhism, and and Christianity, and they've crammed all of this information, what they call New Age, New Thought, whatever they want to call it, into their minds. And they think because they can assimilate that kind of information into some form of knowledge or philosophy, that they have something. Now, I did that for many years, and I found out it doesn't mean anything. Let me just say this to you. Until you have your heart, you don't have anything. All you have is philosophy, information, psychology, and some knowledge. And knowledge isn't enough. Knowledge is not the way to the heart. The heart is found through feelings. A sensitivity must be born in us. It just depends on how sensitive you are. And if you are deeply sensitive, then everything is very sacred in life. The mind can't see that. Our mind is obtaining. As you listen to me this morning on TV, are you not in the obtaining mind? Are you just listening to me without trying to agree or disagree with me? Or are you trying to agree and understand? Or are you trying to disagree and fortify your philosophies and your attitudes and your beliefs and your thoughts? Both are wrong. Both are not right mind. Right mind does something very unique. It just listens without agreement, without disagreement. You know, the difference between a lie and a truth is just about 4 inches. It's the distance between your eye and your ear. Your eyes will never be able to show you what's really happening. Only listening shows you what's really happening. That's right mind. You see, because no mind is involved in listening. You don't agree or disagree. You just listen. When you listen to beautiful music, do you agree with it or disagree with it? When you listen to water running, do you agree with it or do you disagree with it? Well, of course, you don't do any of that. You just listen. And that's the object of the I only don't know mind. If you want to do something quite courageous, gutsy, then drop everything that you think you believe in, everything that you think you know, and just for a few moments every day practice, I don't know. I don't know what's right and wrong, what's good and bad. I don't know if what I believe in or what I don't believe in is important. Practice. Just a few minutes a day in the privacy of your own life, I don't know. You'll find a very drastic change in your life beginning to occur. It's very subtle at first, but drastic. You'll be laying down all of the things that you used to fortify yourself with, like books and tapes that you thought would give you knowledge and give you some sort of power. And you'll find that what lives within you is far greater than anything you've ever read. You'll begin to see that it is the experience of things that are more important than the things themselves. I can sit here and talk to you about love until I'm blue in the face. But until you have experienced unconditional love in your own life, what I have to say is going to be nothing more than my experience. And that can't be anything to you. That can't mean anything to you. It can be interesting, it can be provocative, it can show you some insight here, insight there, might even give you a little hope, but it doesn't mean anything. You've got to have your own experience. And the mind cannot give us that kind of experience. Remember what the mind does. It collects and it informs. It gives us a pseudo kind of belief in ourselves that somehow what it has collected and formulated into philosophy, religion, or attitude is the right way. You'll only be able to realize or know as much as you have accepted in your beliefs and in your thoughts. And that doesn't take us very far, because the world, the universe, and truth are far bigger than the thoughts that you and I have accepted about ourselves, the world, life, and others. If you drop your mind just for a moment in the spaces that your mind used to have between one thought and another, you're going to find the infinite. You're going to find life, you'll find God, you'll find truth. Because it's in the spaces between the words, the gaps, the pauses, that your communion and my communion, not only with each other, but with God exists. God does not live in your mind, and God is not a thought or an idealism. It's not a philosophy. God simply remains what God is, a quality, a spirit, a life. And that cannot be identified, that cannot be defined by the mind. The mind just doesn't have the tools for it. Spend some time in your Vipassana meditation for those of you who practice your breathing exercises, because it's only in meditation that God is found. As we learn to practice our breathing and create space, we find that breath is very important. It leads us to a clear mind, a mind where the dust is kind of wiped off and we begin to see things as they are. Because the biggest miracle in life is not what we think life is, but to see life exactly how it is. I'll be right back with some how-tos. Don't go away. Welcome back. I want to give you some how-tos on this thing of no mind, because it's very difficult for us in the West to think in terms of not thinking. One of the things that we risk in finding our spirituality is to become what I call the divine fool. A person who is not thinking rationally and logically, but is working more from the illogic of their heart. And at first we feel like a complete fool, but the more you work with it, the more sensitive you become, and actually the more intelligent we become, because intelligence is the ability to see things as they are and not to interpret them like we would like them to be. So here's what I would like you to do this week, and you practice these in little moments. And please remember, what I'm about to say is prefaced by this: you must practice meditation, meditation, meditation. So let's talk about that first. I don't care how many books you read, watch this program, buy tapes, whatever, it's going to do you no good at all if all you're doing is obtaining information about the things that you are hearing and developing philosophies. Meditation is essential. If you don't meditate, then you're not on the spiritual path and you're playing a philosophy game. Lots of people like to play that. It's very egotistical. Begin to be able inside of yourself to set aside 15 minutes a day for meditation. Just practice meditation. I've given you a Vipassana meditation tape as an offer to help you. It is a perfect example of how to practice meditation. In your meditation, you're going to feel that the only hesitancy you have, the only real difficulty, is keeping your concentration attentive on your breathing. The reason that is difficult is because it's so simple. And it is the simple things that the mind cannot comprehend. The mind loves complicated stuff. Sending a man to the moon, splitting an atom in half, worrying about problems and difficulties in our life. The mind loves all of that. But when we are beginning to practice simple things, we find that the mind gets bored quickly. So watch this week. As you begin to practice your breathing in and out, your mind's going to be going, what are we doing here, doing this? This is so ridiculous, just watching our breathing in and out. Nothing's going to happen. Something is happening. Watch. You will see that a part of you is starting to awaken. A very small part. It's very subtle. You'll start to have feelings. You've had feelings before, but you've forgotten them because the mind likes to complicate things. Just let the feelings come up. And as they begin to come up, acknowledge them. Sometimes it's good to write them down and formulate some sort of journal on what your feelings were. That's very essential. You begin then to build a kind of an understanding of how you feel and how you think about things. You begin to see that all of your thoughts have been in contradiction to who you really are. That your thoughts were not you. They were what you were trained to believe in, what other people wanted you to believe in. You'll begin to see that you're not authentic at all. You're a part of what everybody else wanted you to be. You're a product. You're not authentic. And when you and I start to be authentic and real, something very magical happens. We seize a hold of ourselves. We become a part of the whole. God then descends upon us. Practice ideas. First thing, all during the week, watch your thoughts. Watch and see how they work. Watch and see how you only want positive things to happen to you. Push away the negative. Instead of drawing the positive and pushing away the negative all week, which is such a struggle, let them be where they are and begin to see that the mind gives meaning to positive and negative. And when you're not concerned about what is positive and what is negative in your life, then your mind can see things just as they are. We begin to see what we thought was negative is not so negative, and what was positive isn't so positive, that everything has its role in your life to play and is trying to bring you deeper and deeper and deeper into your heart. Second thing, become a witness. a witness of your own thoughts. Watch how your thoughts work. See them. And remember this, you are again not obligated to any thought. Thoughts are not as interested in you as you are in them. If you can build some space between one thought and another, that space creates what we call consciousness. Consciousness is not how much you know or what you think. Consciousness is who you really are. And it is created through the space between one thought and another. If you can hold that within yourself without judgmental attitudes and feelings, all of a sudden from out of nowhere comes what we call direct insight, or as we've talked about in previous programs, right seeing. Now we perceive things. We don't interpret things. One last little note. You don't have to give interpretation to anything in life. Life does not need my interpretation or yours. All we need to do is see things as they are, and that is the miracle of life. With right mind, we begin a sensitivity. We begin to live our life in sensitivity. And now the miracle of life can occur. Love is finally possible. Thank you for being with me. Namaste. Thanks again for letting me be a part of your experience. Right mind, Buddha's beautiful teaching on mindfulness. There's a vast difference between minding your business and being mindful in your business. When we are talking about minding our own business or minding our business, we're talking about trying to restrict our thoughts and trying to discourage these thoughts from coming into our life and only have these thoughts. That's a futile attempt at mind control. You'll never be able to control your mind. Mindfulness, as Buddha taught, is simply the ability to look inside the process of our mind and watch it create thoughts without being attached to it. We get letters. Got a letter here for you. You talk a great deal about meditation, but I feel that meditation would make us all lethargic, apathetic. What do you think? Well, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that if we're going to practice a meditative state inside of ourselves, we become, so to speak, dispassionate about the thoughts that come around in our life. The old story about us being more interested in the thoughts themselves than the thoughts themselves are in us now becomes very true. Most of the thoughts that you and I have make us lethargic and apathetic. Meditation makes us awake and alert. The interesting thing about it is now our mind is so keen, so sharp, and so alert, it begins to see things that it's never seen before because now it is perceptive and insightful. It's no longer judgmental or analytical. Also, please remember that your mind can either be a bridge to the outside world, causing your life to be absolute hell, or it can be a bridge to your heart, which makes it heaven. The choice is always ours. If you use your mind to externalize and defend your problems and yourself, then you've created hell for yourself. But if you use your mind as a bridge to your heart, you will listen to your heart, and you will allow your heart to be the reflection of what your mind thinks. Next week, we're going to be looking at right understanding and concluding our series. I'm very grateful you chose to be with us. We'll see you next week on Aspire.